Here are the exercises for chapter 17 on bits. Go to the course project. Create a flags field in the CD structure. Remember the CD structure? Okay. Create a flags field. We'll make it an integer field. And so therefore it will be able to store 32 separate flags. And we'll use one of them. We'll use album as one of the flags. So remember we had an integer before that said, is this going to be an album, yes or no, true or false? Well, that is now just going to be one of the 32 different booleans that we'll be able to store inside our field called flags. So think of another one. Think of a second boolean and implement that. What is another possible thing that you could want to know about a CD that's either true or false? You could maybe say, is it in stock? You could maybe say, well, I'll leave that up to you to come up with your imagination. Just ask a question about a CD that has a yes/no answer. Now, let's get clever. Let's go back to our topic on macros. Remember macros from our C preprocessor chapter? I'd like you to create a macro that takes 3 parameters. This is tricky because you've got to know how macros work. If you can't do it as a macro, then do it as a function. I don't mind. Macros and functions are quite similar. If you don't get it with macros, it doesn't matter. Create a function instead. The 3 parameters are going to be a condition, an integer. The integer is going to represent the series of booleans. In other words, it's the flags field of the CD, and a bit, a single bit. The bit is the 3rd parameter. In other words, that'll be bit number 1 or bit number 2 or whatever you want to call it. The bit that will turn on or off depending on whether condition is true or false. So it might look like this. Hash define on or off, or turn on or turn off. C for condition, F for flags, B for bit. And then you obviously have to write the rest of it. Fair enough? What you'll be able to do with such a macro is you'll be able to call it, you'll be able to pass it the condition. The condition might be whether they answered yes or no to the question, is the CD an album? The flags will be the flags field from the CD structure, and the bit will simply be whichever bit we're trying to turn on or off. In other words, the album bit or the in-stock bit or whatever we've chosen to use. Finally, a second macro. This macro is much simpler than the first one. It takes 2 parameters, an integer, the second parameter is a bit, and it will return 1 if the bit is turned on or 0 if it's turned off. So it'll simply look like that. So you'll be able to do a little test. You could put the isOn macro inside an if statement. And if you can't get it to return 1 or 0, that's fine. If you could just get it to return a 0 value or a non-zero value, then that's perfectly okay as well. Good luck. This is not a very big change to our project, not as big as the last chapter.